The following podcast is a Dear Media production.
You've been really open recently about receiving like so many unsolicited comments, judgments, and it's something that comes with the territory of what we do, but sometimes it can feel like it crosses a line and people aren't entitled to the personal, intimate details about our life, our body, our relationship with food. But recently on With Wit, you released a podcast episode kind of addressing people's concerns about your body. What made you want to do that?
Honestly, I really didn't want to, but I felt like this conversation was being had so much without me on my feed, like in my space, in my community, that I got to the point where I was like sick of people having this conversation without me being involved in it. It just felt like someone was like bullying me or something and no one was sticking up for me and I wasn't sticking up for myself. So I was like, I have to like stick up for myself almost. And looking back on it, I sort of wish I hadn't done it because I think that sometimes when you do that, then you create a space for people to have more of a conversation about it, and you create a space which gives people the opportunity, even if they weren't thinking about it. Now you're like opening it up for them for breeding season to say whatever they want, you know? So if you don't put it out there, then you don't give them that opportunity. But if you don't put it out there, then you're not being vulnerable and sharing what so many people need to see in order for them to feel okay in their own bodies and skin. I really want to be vulnerable and share vulnerable things because I feel comfortable doing that, but I also don't want that to be used against me. So I think there's just a difference. Like I said, I'm open to people's concern and opinions if it's coming from a place of real care and concern. What I'm not cool with is like the quick insults that don't need to be said. Like maybe if you gain 20 pounds, you'd be able to get pregnant, or like, you know, just little insensitive digs. Like those are unnecessary, you know?
I'm glad you said that last part because I was thinking too, it is one thing for people you know who have relationships with you to sit down no matter what it is in your life to have that conversation with you. It's a completely different, inappropriate thing to tag your friend and say, look at her legs in this picture, or look at this. It's like as if you can't see it.
Right. But the thing is like I brought it up in the first place. So I think, well, that's the thing. I say I brought it up in the first place, but I'm like, I didn't really bring it up. They were all talking about it and then I brought it up. But I feel like because I said something about it and acknowledged it, it gives them opportunity to say even more about it. It's hard. Like I said, it's hard because I do want to talk about what's really going on, because I think that we all get lost in like this whole version of it, because it's important to know in order to be able to help. There's different tones when it comes to how you are on social media, and I think certain tones are necessary and good and create community, and like certain tones are just completely unnecessary.
And when your podcast and your Instagram, like it is you and it's about your life, it is hard to also like withhold things that are important to you or that are really happening and significant.
Exactly. And I want to share those things, and I do. And for the most part, the community is really supportive. I think it's true what people say. We all get hung up on the negative stuff so much more than we focus on like the positive, and that is true. But I think what we have to do is really just let that stuff go in one ear and out the other, and like not put weight on it. Like it just cannot mean anything to us.
I'm so sorry that you didn't like really want to do it and you felt that you had to, but I sympathize and I get it. Like you didn't really have a choice, because it almost does become a bullying of, we're going to comment this on every post until she has to say it.
Exactly. On every post, there kept on being multiple conversations about it. Now I realize like I just need to focus on my happiness, my healthiness, like knowing what I'm doing in order to like take charge of my, like I said, my health and my happiness, and like not let anybody else define that.
And you were really vulnerable and open in the part of your podcast. You talked about it, expressing that Timmy had a concern. Like,
yeah, totally. So what happened was my husband was seeing all the comments on the posts and was like, So I've been wanting to say something, and all these people are having this conversation. And so I think it's like time first, like you and I address it, and then we can figure out if it's something that you want to talk about. But yeah, I mean, he was noticing that I was just not taking care of myself and like not making food a priority. And I'm just the kind of person that like eats to live, doesn't live to eat. And I'll go the whole day with maybe just drinking a smoothie and then have a big dinner and think that's enough, you know? And like that is not healthy. And I think that being busy and bearing like a lot of other stuff that I've had going on the past, 10 years of my life, like it all can catch up with you, and it just kind of caught up with me this past year. Mm-hmm. So yeah, once Timmy said something to me, I was like, okay, now I probably have to take a look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have like compassion for you when you explain that, because you're busy, you're working, you have relationships you're dealing with, you have a career. Like, I think some people look at the food conversation as very like it has to be one thing that fits in this box, mm-hmm. like it's an insecurity or it's, you know, a result of society pressure. But
mm-hmm.
for some,
or you're picky,
yeah,
quote picky, yeah.
But for some people, it can literally just be like, I know when I'm feeling very anxious, I lose my appetite.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my appetite and not have a meal, but if I have anxiety in my stomach, I physically can't do it.
Right.
And then to have people think, oh, no, you're just trying to skip a meal. It's like, no, that's not the case.
That's exactly it. It's like I never felt like I had an issue because I wasn't trying to be a certain way. I wasn't trying to be thin. Like I'm a naturally thin person who just, I think, allowed a little bit of like anxiety and some depression kind of lead the way within my body, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, it totally does.
Yeah.
And it like beforehand, seeing you receive so much like unsolicited judgment frustrated me. And then even now to just hear you talking about how it's like so not this intentional thing. And it's like the last thing you need if you're in that situation is the world telling you you're not up to par in a certain area.
Right. I mean, the good thing is that it did force me to take a look at it and like try to make sure that I was being as healthy as possible. So I am grateful for that. That's one thing that is so great about the community is sometimes like, you know, people are seeing you every day and listening to you and hearing you, and they are picking up on certain cues, and there are good people out there that care about you. And I want that to come across too. And so I am grateful for that. How much do I need to update people on my quote progress or like what I'm eating in a day, or you know what I mean? Like,
which is so weird to think like, do I have to tell the public and what I'm eating every day, like as if they deserve that information?
I know, but it's like now anything food related that I want to post, I'm like thinking about if I'm going to get some sort of weird comment. I mean, not to that extent, but
yeah,
like you get it.
Which sucks because, you know, then you're overthinking it when you weren't. That's a lot of, honestly, when I think about like I had a binge eating disorder.
Okay.
So I, in college, like really resented a lot of my weight gain because of volleyball. And I started restricting and not fueling myself.
Okay.
And then I was really anxious and depressed as well. I think we all have our anxious, depressy time in college.
Yes, for sure.
And
I think that comes in waves throughout our lives.
Yeah.
Like we're just normal human beings.
And I was coping with food. It was like my comfort and my outlet. And then I would cry and feel shame and guilt and then restrict the next day. And then the cycle continued. When you make it a goal, even if it's in a good way, then you're just thinking about it more. And it's like the attention on it sometimes isn't always the best thing.
It's so true. So what do I do here? Kind of stuck. And so I decided to go see a nutritionist. And she really said, like, it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. Like I was thinking if you go to a nutritionist, they're going to tell you need like 8 servings of protein a day, 6 servings of veggies, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that is so intimidating for me. Like, that's going to become a whole full-time job. Like, and I mean, and for some people, it is very easy to feed themselves that much a day, you know, but for me, I'm not coming from that place. But I ended up, when I met with her, she was like, no, what feels good to you? Like, what sounds good to you? What kind of eater are you? Are you a snacker? Do you like to sit down and eat big meals? And it was all about like intuitive eating, which I know we hear a lot, but all about just like tuning into really what sounds good to me. And to me, like, I am a snacker. Like, I want to munch on stuff all throughout the day. Like breakfast and lunch, I may not want to sit down and have like a whole big thing, but I'm going to make sure that I'm like getting what I need in another way, because there's plenty of stuff I like to eat. So it's just about like us owning who we are as people, and food and diet and body and all this stuff not being so prescriptive, that it's like it's so individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the one size fits all model, or the watching someone else's what I eat in a day and then comparing yourself. Everyone is so different.
Yes.